Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the A2B Series podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Studevant, and I'm here with my co-founder, COO, best friend, co-host, all of that in the bag of chips, Chalique Sebron.
Wow.
Say what's up, man. Say what's up to the people, bro.
What's up, man? What's up, people?
There we go. But yeah, last time we had Ding Zhang on the podcast, and we've been doing guests pretty often when we do the podcast. We haven't done
every
just
episode,
me, other than the very first one.
Yeah.
So I thought it was about time just me and you did the podcast again.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I forgot our first episode we didn't have a guest.
Yeah, we didn't have a guest on the first one. Yeah. But here we are.
Well.
Here we are. We're back.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
It's a big topic, I think. It's why B2B marketing programs fail or why they don't work. I think it's a huge issue for B2B marketing programs they're getting defunded and shut down like very often.
Shut down, yeah.
Yeah, like we were just working with a company that got one business unit just got their entire marketing program just nuked out of nowhere.
That does happen often, you know.
It does.
That does happen often.
But I will say, I think 8 out of 10 times, you shouldn't blame the CFO or senior leadership. I think it's marketing's job to convey that information very well, and I think a lot of times they don't do it that effectively. And we'll get into it, but I got really strong 5 pillars on why that is. But
so how do you want to structure it? I think we should go probably like the most common reasons, and then probably just trickle down to the ones that are less obvious.
Of course.
And so actually, so one thing I did want to do was let's define a marketing program. Like what kind of programs are we talking about?
Yeah, I think that's the difficult thing is a lot of companies or B2B marketers in specific don't specify what a program is. And that's one of the big reasons, and we'll get into it later. But when they say program, they're lumping and like just putting a lot of things into one bucket. Like paid media is a big one in my opinion. They don't break it down between LinkedIn paid, Reddit paid, Facebook paid. Organic. They lump everything. Yeah, like organic is Google search. Organic can be anything. And they lump it all together. And they wonder why the program overall isn't working. It's because you're not looking at the specific programs that create a much bigger marketing holistic strategy.
And so the thing is, so we're gonna define these programs as different. We're gonna go by channel. I guess we could talk through it through channel just for people to have context.
Yeah.
And so what I have here, right? I have a marketing program is a detailed set of tactics and strategies to achieve a goal. Right. So we're gonna break these goals down separately for LinkedIn, like you said, organic. Technically, a website. Doing a website would technically be a marketing program as well. And so for context, if you guys haven't seen already, for people that are watching the video, we have a big chessboard here.
Yeah, I bought it just for y'all.
Yeah, he bought it just for y'all. So even though y'all could barely see it, but you're gonna see me spank Isaiah for the next 45 minutes or so.
He thinks that's going to happen.
And so we talked through it, and I'm going to go very slow so that I just don't win 5 games in the span of 40 minutes.
Right.
But yeah, so while we're doing that, I'm going to make my first move, and then we can kind of just
go from there.
Get rolling. Sheesh.
So one thing I wanted to bring up as a caveat before we kind of get into the 5 reasons or the 5 big pillars of why programs don't work, I think it's important that marketers have to realize that they are marketing to more than just customers. Like there are 3 layers of buying groups that you have to get buy-in from.
Yeah.
Number 1 is department level. You have to get your team to be sold out and they have to fully understand and be integrated with what you believe is a strategic move for marketing.
Yep.
Second is the big one. This is where they oftentimes mess up, but
see if I go there.
It's organization level communication. You have to get buy-in from senior leadership, and I think B2B marketers they don't do a really good job of conveying what the benchmarks, what the programs, they don't lay it all out for senior leadership to be able to fully understand and grasp. And that's where a lot of the cracks are falling through. And obviously the third layer is customer facing. So that's where you're going to get your customers and prospects. But it's number 2 that I think is why a lot of programs are falling through. So
with that is, right? Because with that, I think that's more towards like, obviously that can go for every program, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's more so for what we see often is the paid social, because that's where, not even really paid search, but paid social, because that's where you see the majority of the company's content. That's what they're pushing out, and that's what they put a budget behind. And so like that was kind of, actually that was the first point I was going to bring up too, was just understanding your customer and the different type of customers that you have. So I guess understanding your ICP, I guess that kind of can fall into there. But I guess it's more so like, do people still do customer interviews? Like does marketing still do customer interviews?
You'd be surprised how many companies we've gone into and they
don't do it at
interviews.
all.
Yeah, it's something that they know they should do, but A, they don't have a playbook for how to do it, or B, they're just lazy and don't want to do it.
Yeah, so I guess you could roll credits right there, because, I mean, if you want to fix a program, you should probably go talk to your customer. I'm about to win. You should probably go talk to your customer first. And I think that's where a lot of programs fail at, obviously. And so I think that's a quick fix. That's a quick fix that you can go talk to your customer, figure out what your customer wants, and stop. Because I think people get caught up with the whole data-driven decision making, which is true, but that doesn't mean only go off data. You know what I'm saying? Like, you use the information you have, the insights you have from your customers, and I feel like marketers don't do that.
Yeah, so that's the part about it. I think they believe data is just one thing, which they believe to be quantitative, just the numbers, but there's a lot of qualitative data that they're not looking at, and that's why something like self-reported attribution and having a form in there for how they heard about you and doing the customer insights and finding those positive sentiments that you can't get from data to give you more insights. So when they say data-driven decisions, I think most marketers automatically think, I have to look at numbers only and not look at what are my customers actually saying and use those insights to further prove and verify and validate the strategy.
So when you say understand the different levels of people that you're marketing to, say those three again.
Yeah, the three to me are department level. So that's your team. If you're the VP of marketer, CMO, that's your entire marketing department that you're overseeing. Secondly is organizational level. So this is where senior leadership comes in. And then finally, customers and prospects is the third layer.
And so, out of those three, right? Which one do you think people market to the most, and which one kind of gets left behind for the most part or forgotten about? You're about to lose, by the way, but go ahead. I'm about to beat him already.
You've done this to me before, and I know exactly how to get out of this. But yeah, I think the one that they forget about the most is senior leadership. I think on department level, they're in there with their team daily, so they have to
check.
Thanks. So they have to have some type of accountability and buy-in from their team because they're performing with them every single day.
Yeah.
And then the customers, that's the bread and DNA of a business. If you're not doing the customer level and insights and taking care of the customers, you don't have a business. So yeah. the second one, the organizational level one, is the one that they drop the ball on the most of not communicating, because to me, it's like marketers have this sense of I don't want to say fear, but like their job security is on the line, and they're just trying to go in there and inflate numbers to kind of secure their job, and they're not actually standing up to senior leadership and saying, here's how this is going to happen. I need this amount of time. I need this amount of budget. If we don't get this is the results that are going to happen. Yeah. And I think that's where they kind of missed the ball at and dropped the ball for like marketing programs to actually succeed.
Yeah, I think, and honestly, like this can go many ways. So I don't want to get caught up in that too much because we have a lot to go over.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna throw you one of the ones that I definitely thought about was not because a marketing program could be going good, right? And you may not know it. Yeah. And so you're gonna love this one. So measuring the right metrics, I think, yeah, because oftentimes it could be very, very often you could see a program, right? Like, so people buy-in from the company, one, right? So if you don't get buy-in from the company, you don't really even have enough time to see a program through. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times, even if you do see it through, you're measuring the wrong things. You're not really, those lagging indicators, or sometimes even the early indicators, a lot of people don't see and they don't measure it right. So I definitely want to get your
so that's pillar number 2. I'll go back to 1 later, but pillar number 2 to me is they have no structure to measure early positive signals for a program on how it's working.
Yep.
To me, it's usually they're not measuring. It goes back to exactly what you just said, the data aspect of it. They want to be so data driven that they're not looking at the qualitative aspects of it and hearing out what their customers are saying, hearing out how people heard about you and got to your pipeline. That's like one big part of it. And then secondly, how they measure it and how they communicate it to senior leadership is usually, it's like the social media thing, that weird trend where it was like, take a picture or it didn't happen. For B2B marketers, show the revenue or it didn't happen. So it's like you're not showing the benchmarks that are leading to revenue. You're not showing how this has affected pipeline. You're not showing early positive signals of how you're penetrating accounts and getting engagements and early intent signals. You're just saying, hey, I need this amount of budget to get this amount of revenue, but you're not telling the roadmap and showing the benchmarks that lead up to it. And so now you're underperforming when 30 days into your program, your CFO or your senior leadership asks, why aren't we getting revenue? Well, you didn't communicate what the time horizon was. You didn't communicate what are the early signals and that we should be looking for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days from now before we start seeing close-won revenue.
Yeah, no, I think companies don't like, because if you're a CMO or like if you're the head of marketing and you're the person seeing this marketing program through, and you're not that's actually a good move, and you're not trying to see it through. That just messed me up. Anyways, yeah. So like, if you're a CMO or the head of marketing, VP of marketing, you're the person seeing it through. You have to be the one to know what to measure. You know, and I think that's something that a lot of companies don't look for when they're hiring, because I think when they're hiring or when they have hired in the past, now I think is getting like you see a little less of that, but. When you're hiring, you don't see people looking for marketers that are focusing on full funnel. You see them focusing on top of funnel, especially at these big corporate companies. As you know, they're more stuck on volume for some reason. I don't know why. They're stuck on volume over quality. And to me, it's like, for a marketing program to be done right and to be measured right, you have to have the right personnel. That's one. You have to have the right framework set up. That's two. And three, I mean, again, buy-in. You have to have enough time to see a program through so you can even get those indicators, those early indicators.
I think it goes back to what Sam Keenley taught us early on, was that the VP of marketing or the CMO has to own the strategy before they bring talent, tech, vendors, outsource talent to the program. Because if they don't own it, it's going to be chaos. And I think that brings it to pillar number one, I think, on why a lot of these programs fail, is because they don't have a specific process or distinction for how to actually bring a program to market. Yeah. So marketers say go to market, but they don't actually have a process for how to bring this program to the market.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's where they mess up a lot of times, because there's no path to doing things that are unscalable. I think it goes back to software, SaaS 101, is do things that don't scale. They don't have a clear program of how to go from doing things that are unscalable, getting early signals, finding early wins that prove the program can be scalable, and then all the way to scale. They'll accidentally stumble across a program that may work, but they don't know how to scale it, and now they mess it up, and it goes backwards, and then the program gets canceled when they have the opportunity to really grow and become like a really big pillar of revenue and pipeline for the marketing team.
And so when you're talking about bringing getting a scalable framework, bringing it to market, right? I feel like a lot of companies, like, obviously we're going to speak in general. We can't speak to every company in their specific situation, but I think people are not are not prepped for. I figured you'd do that. I really did. Go ahead. But yeah.
Ooh, that was a good move.
Yeah, his queen is mine, by the way.
I don't think so.
But yeah, I think in a lot of situations, if you can't scale a marketing program, okay, like for you, like, do you think if somebody can't scale a marketing program, is that due more to like the person not knowing, or due to the infrastructure that the company has?
I think 9 out of 10 times is in the infrastructure. I think companies don't do multi-channel or multi-program approaches, not because it's not not because it's not capable of being profitable. I think they overexpend resources into a program trying to get the big wins when there's like a lot of secondary and tertiary programs that are there to support the bigger revenue program. So that goes back to what you were talking about to me yesterday, that every program gets measured by the same rubric of criteria for success. And I think that's a very bad way of trying to measure a program, and that's why things get cut early. So for us, when we were talking to Ding on the last episode about the event strategy, it's one thing to try and measure events and you're spending $250,000, $500,000, $1 million on events, when if you were to take a different strategy and find where can we become profitable, scale that program back to the point where you can do it and still be profitable, and then it obviously feeds into the bigger program strategy. So I think it's more of an infrastructure issue than talent. Talent to me is an outcome of how well the infrastructure is. So if you have A+ infrastructure, you can bring C+ talent in to get A+ outcomes with the program.
Yeah, and what I recommend to those head of marketings that are trying to scale a program and don't have necessarily the infrastructure, and they're not getting buy-in from the company, you should probably recommend hiring a consultant. And I'm not just saying that because like obviously that's what we do, but it definitely helps when you have somebody backing you. When you have a company that has worked with over 100 B2B companies, it's like when you bring an expert in, a quote unquote expert, and they're coming in, they're gonna diagnose like what your issues are, and they say, hey, like it's the infrastructure that you guys have like set up here, and it's like things that are outside of the CMO's control. I think that will definitely help you get by. It may not flip a switch and make everything go green, but it'll definitely help you get buy-in, and it'll give you some type of clarity, so that you don't think you're just crazy.
Keep pushing that issue right there, because I think that's super important as to why a lot of these programs don't work, or why bringing outside talent doesn't work, is because they think bringing an agency in is supposed to flip everything green. We've heard it before. So many CMOs and VPs of marketing say that our agency isn't being strategic enough or being creative and innovative enough. But the idea is that I think most good agencies bring to the table will make a really big impact 6 to 12 months from now. Yeah. But because it's not making this huge splash effect right now, you think that they're not being strategic or creative. And I think that's a very bad way of looking at it. And that goes to the whole communication aspect of it. What are you bringing this agency in or this consultant in to figure out? They present the information to you and you don't want to apply it. You want to do something that's going to garner a lot of attention and praise and glory for you, but doesn't do anything to affect pipeline. You just want to do something that feels innovative, that feels creative, but doesn't do anything for ROI. So
yeah, when you're in a world where everybody is being creative as far as marketing, sometimes not being creative is being creative.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people don't think about that when they're doing their not even say marketing, but when they're building these programs, I think a lot of people think like that you have to be like just like out the gate creative, oh, like no company has ever done this, and it's like, well, sometimes maybe a company has tried and maybe it hasn't worked out. You know what I'm saying? And so like even now, obviously, like when you're making things like content, like for events and things like that, I think that's a good time to try things out. Be as creative as possible, like as creative as you can, because at the end of the day, sometimes, again, like I said, sometimes not being creative is being creative, and I think a lot of people, and I'm not talking about just going back to like leads and like ebooks, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of companies have stopped, but not saying it in a sense like that, but in the sense of sometimes boring is like it works, right? Sometimes like you just want to get the point across, and because we've tried this before, like where we've had a client that, like we've tried to go all out creative, like crazy creative, and then the feedback we was getting, well, it was good feedback, but it wasn't the feedback that we wanted, because they were so, I don't know if you remember this, but they were talking about the actual, like when the creative was so creative, it was like you focusing on the creative and not really the message behind it. And so I think that same concept goes throughout an entire marketing program. It's not just like your content. So yeah, I'm gonna touch on that.
100% agree there. I think boring sometimes works, like you said, because there's this big push for B2B to be creative, and we're all for it. That's a big part of how we think and how we look at how we look at the world of B2B is creativity, content packaging and distribution needs to be stellar, but we're not saying create a Super Bowl ad, or we're not saying jump onto every creative idea or trend that you see all these B2B influencers do. All we're saying is increase the production value, increase the packaging of it from bare minimum Zoom creative to something that shows that you're actually putting in effort to deliver valuable content. You don't have to go and hire a agency for 20 grand to shoot a 30-second commercial that doesn't get the point across, but it looks good for having a mascot. Like, that may not be necessary right now, especially if you're a Series A and Series B B2B SaaS company. I don't think those are bets right now that you should make. You should get your pillar channels down first, get your pillar strategy down first, and then scale that up and increase the packaging and production value there.
Yeah, so that was a lot for pillar. That was pillar 2, right?
Yeah, that was pillar 2.
Talking about we started talking about metrics, I believe it was, right?
Yeah, so pillar 3 goes into it really is goes into exactly the measurement too, but pillar 3 to why these programs don't work is generic measurement. The generic measurement rubric is applied to all programs. There's no distinction between create demand and capture demand programs. It all gets lumped into one. Like, again, when they don't communicate that each of these programs are specific to a specific outcome, whether that be to create net new demand or drive actual demand capture and conversions, what senior leadership will look at and say, I'm looking at marketing as a whole and lump all these programs into one big marketing program and measure it that way. When if you were to dissect it and communicate, okay, this is what create demand means. These are the metrics that we're looking at. This is what capture demand means. This is the metrics that we're looking at. This is how this affects pipeline. This is how this affects ROI when it works correctly. Now, for the capture demand programs, this is how we're going to go about it. And for the create demands, the same exact thing. But when you don't create a distinction there, everything gets scored. It's a blanket scoring sheet. Yeah. And that's why a lot of programs get killed early, because everything's getting scored the exact same way. And it goes into the whole idea of PTW, position to win. That stage in the pipeline where you're winning at 25% or greater. Yeah. Each different program has a different point in which that 25% is. Yeah, that's true. And they don't ever address that. It's like events usually will have to get very close to close one for them to be at 25%, where somebody who's coming inbound from a declared intent web form, that 25%, it could be stage two. Yeah, it could be exactly.
Stage 2.
So that clarification needs to be made.
And I think one, like you said, whoever is looking, or whoever is looking at whoever is looking at marketing and saying, whoever's looking at marketing and saying, hey, like, you know, like it's not profitable, or like, because when you're talking about programs, again, like we're talking about individual ones, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you're talking about individual programs, when you're talking about individual programs, you can't lump everything together. And like Isaiah said, you can't judge, like every marketing platform is not judged the same. So therefore you can't judge LinkedIn based off the same results that you're judging off of TikTok and Facebook, you know? And I think that does happen, which is why they not same way you segment your audience, you should segment your programs as far as what you're measuring them by. One measurement of success for, again, TikTok is not going to be the same for LinkedIn. It's not going to be the same for Google. And again, and it's crazy how a lot of this stuff is going to come full circle, because now we're talking about measuring again, right? And so now we're talking about measuring again, and that comes down to personnel. And if you're able to measure properly, and if you can't, like if you're not able to measure properly, I'm gonna be honest, your program is probably gonna fail. It's gonna fail like it's pretty much doomed on day one if you can't fail. I mean, if you can't measure properly, right? And then another thing to add to that is when it comes to measuring properly and measuring different programs separately, like a lot of that comes down to the person actually getting the point across. Like, how are you explaining to your leadership that this program is working?
That goes into pillar number 4. I'm glad it's just bad communication with senior leadership. Yeah. I think one of the biggest ones is they're not factoring in all the criteria that affect the time horizon or the time to achievement. Mm-hmm. To me, when they communicate a program, they're going to say, we we should see ROI in the first quarter, but they're not factoring in that your sales cycle is 90 days. So the ROI really won't be for the first 6 months until you start seeing close on revenue. So it's things like that, not looking at exactly what you just said, hiring marketers that aren't full funnel and getting very specific that only focus on top of the funnel. So now they can't measure and look at how does what we're doing contribute or affect or impact further down the funnel? How does that affect the time to close one? How does that affect pipeline velocity? These things aren't getting looked at from a marketing standpoint. They're thinking that their ROI is leads or their ROI is pipeline. And we're not even talking about like position and win pipeline. We're talking about just stage one, whatever that looks like. So they're not looking at it from the standpoint of, hey, let's look at how sales is performing as well. We have to factor that into our strategy so that we can effectively communicate a go-to-market strategy to senior leadership. Now your program has a lot more leeway and a lot more of a lifeline from senior leadership to get, to be proven, validated, and fully scaled.
Because the go-to-market team, they usually don't act as a team.
No, never.
Which is why I don't know where we got this from, this go-to-market team, because things are so divided. It's insane. But you said the next pillar was what again?
Just bad communication of the time to achievement and milestones to senior leadership. They just don't communicate effectively to the CFO, especially the CFO. Yeah, and it'll be those same people that can't measure properly, but they'll go back and say, "Hey, we need budget." Or then you'll have people that don't know how to measure, and then their program actually works out, right? Their program actually works, is bringing in revenue, but they don't know how. And they're sitting there, they're just watching this revenue come in for, 3 months, 2 quarters, however long it is. And then when things take a turn, when things take a dive, you don't even know why. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You don't, that's a good move. You don't even know why your revenue is taking a dip or why your marketing program is taking a dip. And so that's when things start getting bad. Things start getting real hectic then, because now you're sitting there going crazy, because now you're changing everything now at this point, because you don't know what was working and you don't know why it was working. So therefore now when things aren't working, it's like, okay, well, let's just change everything. Let's change this, let's change that. And then it's like, well, maybe if you just, try some new creative for once, maybe that might work, and so it's little things like that would definitely cause a marketing program to fail or succeed. I definitely agree. I think marketers need to be more like scientists and have controlled variables when they do an experiment. Yeah. I think the word experiment gets thrown around a lot, but they don't even know what experiment actually means. Mm-hmm. Like they look at an experiment like, let's do this, but it's not, here's the process, here's the ramp up of how we do this. These are the metrics we need to look at. This is how we pivot. It's, let's throw new creative out there and see what works. It's a spray and pray method. That's what they think experimentation is spray and pray. Just throw stuff out there and see what works. Mm-hmm. When there's a very detailed, process-driven way of bringing something to market, bringing a program to life, that they aren't taking into account. And so when they do the spray and pray method, if it works, you can't explain why. Yeah. And then you can't repeat it or duplicate it. And so 2 quarters from now, after you just had this big explosion of pipeline and results, you can't do it. And now you get this huge drawback and you can't figure out how to do it again. So yeah, not being able to clearly explain what you did because you're trying to do the spray and pray method and not go a process-driven experimentation. I think the best marketers think like scientists and can pinpoint exactly what variable, what criteria, what issue is causing this bottleneck, and then remove it or address it or pivot totally and make the program profitable.
And you said you had five pillars, right?
Yeah, I got another pillar.
What's his last pillar?
What is his last pillar?
Let's talk about it.
Where are we at in chess? Did you make a move yet?
No, I did not. But there you go. That's my move.
Okay.
Oh, you're in check, by the way.
Ooh, I am in check. You're about to do something I don't like, Chalique, but it's okay. I'm out of check. Yes, pillar 5. I think most marketing teams, let me stop saying most. I think a good amount of marketing teams who are experiencing failed programs do so because they can't integrate and scale a validated program. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to bring in the talent. They don't know how to bring in the tech. They don't know how to make it process driven to make it repeatable. They just they get to a point where they can say, hey, it looks like it's working, but not know how to truly integrate into the go-to-market strategy and convey it to the other members of the go-to-market team.
And so what was the title of the pillar?
The title of the pillar was No Process to Integrate and Scale Validated Programs with Talent and Tech.
And so this comes from hiring again.
Yes.
Because when you're hiring a marketer, they should already have a process in place, somewhat of a process in place that they're bringing to your company, right? And as a marketer, don't take a job unless you already know what kind of, have somewhat of a guesstimate of what kind of process that you're going, or that you would like to implement, right? Because at the end of the day, like you just said, they don't know how, like they don't have a process to do anything, because when they come in, they're coming in day one and just thinking, okay, all of this stuff is going to work. And they're doing these things with no process behind it. And that's where things get messed up. You know what I'm saying? And so what do you think is the best way to even solve for something like that?
It just really goes back to the process and looking at a program in two lenses: early stage, proof of concept, and then validate it. If you can look at it from those two lenses, you can really do a lot of damage with the program. When we say do things that don't scale, we're talking about the infancy of a program. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. Yeah. Simple as that. If you can't pivot, use a new tactic, use a new initiative, and it doesn't work, you probably shouldn't be doing it. It's probably not for your company. But if you get to the point where it's starting to work, you need to be thinking ahead of time, what talent needs to run this program? Because you as the CMO or the VP of marketing, it's your job to bring in the best talent to do this program. So if it's paid social on LinkedIn and it's just you and a content marketer, you need to bring in a campaign manager or a media buyer who is stellar at their job to finish running that program, or it's going to fail. Yeah. And it goes for the same thing with ABM when we talked about ABM with Tori Kinlick about doing ABM manually first. Yeah. This is something like that. Doing ABM, running it the manual way, figuring out if it works for you, and then bring the tech in. Because again, tech and talent are some of the biggest eaters of marketing budget. I
actually have that written down here as one of the reasons why these programs fail.
Go off.
It's tech stack. So we're gonna talk about this, and you're gonna understand exactly what I'm saying. And a lot of people listening are going to understand exactly what I'm saying. A lot of you depend on your tech stack too much. And your tech stack is probably, I'm not going to say wrong half the time, but it's not accurate. No tech stack is 100% accurate, no matter what they promise you. If you spent $1,000 on LinkedIn, they're going to say you spent $999. And so I think people use a tech stack. People get, like I wrote down yesterday, people get too dependent on their tech stack, and they think their tech stack is the end all be all, and half the time the tech stack doesn't even report properly what's in the CRM. And so you have these marketers that when they give a report or when they do anything, they go off of a tech stack, and it's like the tech stack should only validate what you already know. One, and two, you should be doing it manually and then aligning it with the tech stack, right? So I'm not saying every day you have to go through a tech stack and go through LinkedIn, TikTok, and go through all these different channels that you guys are using, but quarterly at least, right? At least quarterly, like you should be able to go through manually and look at the data and say, okay, like, does it make sense? Does it not make sense? You know what I'm saying? And then you align it with a tech stack, and then that's how you get clarity and you get confidence in what you're about to report. So
definitely agree with that. If you're a Series A company and you're the first marketer there and you go to the CFO and you're like, I need $500,000 in tech budget. It's like, all right. It's definitely not going to happen. I think marketers, inexperienced and even some experienced marketers, they try to overachieve on budget when it's not necessary. Mm-hmm. I think, I'm trying to figure out how to formulate this, but essentially inexperienced marketers try to use budget as the way forward, as the way to make marketing work when
they're trying to compensate.
That's the word.
They're definitely trying to compensate. Yeah. They're trying to compensate for either something that they don't know, or they don't know how to do, or they don't know how to measure. And that's where tech stack comes in. And that's why companies are going, or that's why these people are going to their company saying, hey, we need this not because this is really going to help the company, but just because it helps me not do my job, right? It helps me not have to go into LinkedIn and measure the things I'm supposed to measure anyways, even if we get a tech stack, which is crazy to me. But the thing is, and when you get so dependent on a tech stack, like you said, that's when everything, all 5 pillars that we just mentioned start, with something around that as far as measuring, and you're using a tech stack to do measuring. You're using a tech stack to give proof, or you're using measuring to give proof that it's time to scale this process, and you need more budget. But yet everything that you're reading off from a tech stack is not accurate.
That's why a lot of people are fearful of AI because they think it's going to replace them, because you're not doing your job anyway. And so you see how to be honest with you, companies might start hiring the tech instead of the talent.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's what you're doing. You're hiring somebody to hire a tech stack.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, okay, if that's how you want to waste your money, then by all means, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot. Did you have any more on your list? Because I can keep going all day.
Yeah, I think we should just we could just start firing them off for a bunch of stuff that
Did you go yet?
Huh? Yeah, I just went.
What did you do?
I moved my pawn up.
Oh.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thanks. Think that was a good move. No.
Yeah, I'm not understanding your move.
Oh. Well, we'll see. I don't know. What was that? Oh.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that.
Sorry, I'm under pressure.
Yeah, Isaiah's under pressure right now. He's about to lose.
No, I'm not. Don't say that.
This would be a good time for the coaching. But yeah, I think for now we can start kind of just throwing out. Maybe I know we mentioned some, but what are maybe some good ways to I guess diagnose some of these issues, like, because we named a lot, right? We named at least, like you said, we named at least five pillars. So how are we going to talk about how do you diagnose to know which one of those 5 pillars that you fall under?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to look at it from the overall aspect of it. Number one, you have to distinguish what program is what. Mm-hmm. Don't lump paid media into one thing. Don't lump organic into one thing. Specify what the program is. Say this is podcast, this is live events, this is hybrid events, this is LinkedIn paid, this is LinkedIn organic. Lay it out so that you can get, just how we say split the funnel, split the program.
Yeah.
Split the program into its individual parts to see how they operate individually. And then you go from there. That's step one, in my opinion, is splitting your programs down so you can get a very clear view of how they're performing individually. And then you assess it from a broader standpoint and look at it all together, how it's affecting marketing ROI.
So so I think the first pillar was around ICP, right?
Yeah.
So the first pillar was around ICP. So if you're a company, you don't know who your ICP is, or you're trying to narrow down, we could just give them some of those metrics to actually look for, to even diagnose if you're targeting the right people. And all of this information is in your CRM, at least it should be. Mm-hmm. And so certain things that I have written down, which you can for sure add to it. So we have your ACV. We have a sales cycle, and mind you, so we're talking about segments now. So you're gonna segment people based on these things: their ACV, their sales cycle, how many deals are being closed, what is the conversion rate, and then also, how long are they paying you? So, and it pretty much boils down to figuring out what accounts or what companies are paying you the most for the longest. It's kind of just that simple, and which ones are paying you the most frequently. Yeah,
we were literally just talking to somebody yesterday who's in a horizontal SaaS, very, very horizontal SaaS, by the way, I should add. And their whole thing was we can market everybody. It's going to be difficult when you go into our CRM to see what segment specifically makes sense. But we're going to run that same exact thing. Yeah. And he's like, well, a good amount of them are paying us a lot of money. Well, let's add another layer of metric on it. Let's go for customer success and see who's churning. Because we give this example all the time. We were working with a vertical SaaS company who, when we came in, we were killing it, bringing in qualified pipeline. But when the deals actually closed, they were saying that this specific smaller SMB segment was churning high because they just don't fit our product. Because one, the price that we're charging this SMB client doesn't make sense for them, and also they don't get the fullness of the product because their issue isn't grand enough for our product to solve. And so to throw another layer of validation for ICP, you have to look at going back to the whole go-to-market team, everybody has their metrics, but no one's bringing them all together to make it make sense for the ICP. And churn, to me, completes that triad of the go-to-market team's metrics that you should be looking at to validate ICP.
And that goes to running a program that is full funnel. We have to run a program that's full funnel. That's the only way you can run a successful program that not just goes back to revenue, but not just go back who's paying you, but it goes back to who's paying you for the longest, right? That's kind of what a company would want. They don't just want like these one-time deals. They want, or people that drop off after 3 months. They want people that are there for, years to come. And then I guess to add on top of that, right? So now that we can kind of transition back into metrics being measured properly, right? So out of the different ways for somebody to be measured, for somebody to measure their marketing program, what do you think are the best practices?
Understanding what each program's context is. Mm-hmm. I think the best example of that is LinkedIn Paid. Understanding that LinkedIn Paid is a demand channel for demand creation, and that the primary goal of LinkedIn Paid is for consumption.
Yeah.
And to add value to the category and to the individual buyer, and to empower buyers in their dark social networks. That's how you start to measure, is looking at each program in its context. Google Ads isn't a demand creation channel, so you're not going to measure it the same way you do LinkedIn Ads. Yeah. So I think the measurement just comes at not scoring everything on the same rubric and giving everything its proper measurement, its proper time horizons, proper resources, and it's for proper reporting cadence. That's how you start to measure properly. Is you only have 2 buckets of things that you're going to be doing. It's either creating demand or capturing demand. It gets no simpler than that.
And again, like we said in the beginning, we are defining a marketing program, right, as a set of strategies and tactics to reach a goal. And if you have, so we're talking about marketing programs, that's plural. So therefore, a set of strategies and tactics to reach a goal. You have to have separate goals for each channel, right? And I'm talking about, obviously you're going for the revenue, but you want to have those other like early indicators that we say, because early indicators on demand capture is very different than demand gen. And then it's about how long it does it take to even see those early indicators. So all of those things come into play when you're measuring and not relying on a tech stack.
Here's something very practical. I'm gonna give them some very practical advice right now. If you want to put this into motion, number one, look at all your programs now, see which ones have a lot of wasted spend that's not profitable, that's not producing any ROI. Look at those programs, recover whatever wasted spend is there, then get a list of all the motions, all the programs that you want to do, that you want to experiment on, whether that be TikTok, whether that be LinkedIn ads, whether that be LinkedIn organic, whatever that looks like. Get a list and then prioritize it. Make a list of prioritization. What do you think? Make a bet now on what you think is going to be the program that produces the biggest ROI. Put them in priorities 1 through 5, 5 through 10. I don't think you should do 10 if you're an A or B company. I think you should get your first 3 to 5 first. But prioritize which ones you want to go at. Take that wasted spend and start deploying it to priority number 1. And then once you can kind of prove and validate priority number 1, bring to number 2. And that's how you start to get this machine working for you to create programs that are scalable, create programs that don't get shut down or defunded quickly. Is looking at where are you wasting it now, split everything up, pick a priority, make a strategic bet, and allocate resources and talent to it on a very small, unscalable scale first. Get proof of concept and then scale it.
Okay, so now that we talk, I actually have like 3 more that I kind of want to just spit out real quick for people that are dealing with these specific ones. And so, hear me out. Watch this. So I'm gonna just name them, right? Mm-hmm. So we spoke about lack of communication throughout the entire company, but mainly the go-to-market team, right? And then we have not measuring full funnel. And so I'm not sure if we talked about like the whole SQL, MQL thing.
We didn't.
But and you should real quick switch your MQL to an SQL. Like whatever your MQL is, leave it alone, and like your targeting should be for an SQL, whatever that is. Talk to your sales team. And then we have one of the biggest reasons why I think they fail, which I'm kind of upset I didn't mention it yet, because you're gonna go off about this. Companies never have a brand narrative. They never have a brand narrative for what you're promoting. And so you're just saying, hey, buy my product, but why am I buying your product? Like what? And so when we're talking about brand narrative, we're talking about like what's your stance on the current market, right? Like what do you believe in as a company? What's the company message? Not just what you're selling, but like for instance, if you're selling underwear, right? Well, why are you selling underwear? Well, we believe all underwear is uncomfortable. Okay, well, let that be your brand narrative, and you push that all underwear is uncomfortable except ours. And I feel like a lot of programs fail because they run these programs, because you could do all of those right. Each one of those 5 pillars, you could do right. But if you don't have a brand narrative, you're probably not going to get anywhere. So yeah, I know you can go off on that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to play chess or you want me to go off?
Please go off. Check.
Ooh, thanks for messing up my rip.
Your queen is mine, by the way. But go ahead.
You can have her. But yes, so the what companies miss as far as a holistic. Wow. Thanks. You're just gonna keep taking my pieces. It's all right.
Talk to the people, please.
Yeah, let me talk to y'all because he's gonna keep taking my pieces. But yeah, I think that's where they missed the holistic part of it. Is it goes back to a holistic marketing strategy is value creation for the category, empowering individual B2B buying journeys. That's the big one, is that companies still approach B2B buyers the same way that they used to back in the early 2000s and how they did it before, which was B2B buyers didn't have access to information about your company. They needed sales to give them information during the research phase. They needed sales to give them to guide them down the buying process. Now, the game has changed. They go to their peers, they go to dark social channels, and they ask their peers for solutions to problems. Yeah. And the companies that we often see win the most are the ones that have a strategic narrative around the product. Yeah. It's typically not a product because, one, when you do the strategic narrative, you're creating affinity for the category first. That's layer number one. You have to get them drawn to the category of product that your product is solving for. Secondly is the brand specificity and product specificity. That's when you start introducing product things. But the only way to get them to the category and get them to understand the need for a solution in your category and then yours specifically is the brand narrative. And the companies that have an actual brand narrative, like you said, underwear is uncomfortable, but ours isn't. That narrative is going to do a lot better than those who are just saying, come buy underwear. Yeah,
come buy, because you have to understand your company's not that innovative. I can almost guarantee you. And if you have a good company, you have competitors, and your competitors are doing the very same thing that we're talking about, which is having a brand narrative. And so if you don't have a brand narrative, go figure out what your brand narrative is. How do you do that? Go talk to your sales team. Go talk to the go-to-market team. See why people are buying. See what issues that they're having. See what reasons people aren't buying. Yeah. Right. See like what are the reasons why people aren't buying and what issues that they have that you guys aren't solving. Right. Right. And then use that to formulate a brand narrative. And therefore, you guys stand for something as a company, and you're not just out here just like, buy my underwear,
Exactly. So as we wrap it up, we're going to finish this game and do a quick round of speed chess real quick. I am probably going to lose this one. I couldn't focus, but on speed chess, I got you. You ready to rock out?
Yeah, sure. I think the game is pretty much over already, but yeah.
Make your move.
Huh?
Make your move.
Oh, it's my go, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Why do I feel like I was about to do something that I wasn't supposed to do? Okay, go ahead, check. Let's put that right there. Actually, go ahead.
Thanks, Chalique.
You're welcome.
I will gladly do a queen swap.
Yeah. Check.
I'll move that over.
What are you really trying to do?
Come on, don't do that to me.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm not mad at you. Check. I was waiting for that opening too.
You was waiting for what? To bring out your pawn?
Yeah. You gonna judge me now because I'm trying to bring my pawns up?
Actually, do we still have time here? Actually, while we still have time, I actually want to talk about the whole SQL thing.
Oh, go ahead. Go off.
The whole MQL versus MQL thing.
Please.
And who you're you can do that move. And who you're actually targeting. And so I feel like this is something that comes from I think way back when when they when companies used to like you said the whole like I'm going to talk to sales to learn more about your company, and sales is going to sell me. And I think now it's now companies know, like, I know more about your company than what your company is actually telling me, right? And so, and I do that because we talk already, and so what? That was a good move.
Yeah,
I know. But it's like we talk already as far as buyers, right? And it's like, as far as in MQL versus SQL, you should know, like, you should only target people that are qualified if you're trying to get leads done faster, right? So meaning that you need to go talk to sales and figure out why your MQLs are not converting. And if you see a trend, then you need to cut that stuff out. Those are things that you need to cut out of your targeting, because, for instance, if you're getting a bunch of MQLs and to be like, oh, well, companies that have under 100 employees, they don't really convert well, or they don't stay for long enough. Well, you should probably cut those out. Don't just bring them in just for the sake of bringing them in. You know what I'm saying? And that's really how you optimize, right? What you're selling.
Or here's the issue: they don't know how. They're not standardizing what qualified means. They're not standardizing any of that information. That's why marketing and sales can't agree on what a lead is, because they're not all addressing it the same way. They're saying a lead is anybody who's in the CRM. That's typically how marketing scores a qualified lead.
And I hate that, because why? I'm in everybody's CRM.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for a CRM, I'm in HubSpot, I'm in Salesforce, I'm in everybody's CRM. Like, what makes your CRM so special? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And that's the thing that actually that just kills me, because I figured you do that. Because that's the thing that kills me. It's like, bro, like, don't think that your company's so special because I filled out a form. You know what I'm saying? I filled out 10 forms today, and I was on a bunch of companies' websites before I even hit yours.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like people never think about that.
9 times out of 10, when somebody's in your CRM, they're also in 2-3 other company CRM, because when they're in research mode, they're not. B2B buyers aren't stupid. They know not to just go gung ho on one company or one product.
And that's anybody. That's even B2C. Like, if people come to us, if they want to work with us, right? They're trying to. If companies want to work with us and they come fill out a form, come to our website, book a call, hop on a call, we are like, that's usually one of the questions that we ask on the call is, what are you looking for in your marketing agency? Because we know you're looking for multiple marketing. Like, we're probably the third agency that you spoke to today, you know, because you want your problem solved, and you're not going to just bet all your, put all your eggs in one basket as far as.
Fix my pawn, man. Chalique's about to.
That's your pawn right there?
Yeah.
When did I get there?
Oh, when did I get there?
Your pawn was there.
Take that off.
Yeah.
That's what you just took.
He's trying to cheat. Why are you cheating?
I did.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just finish the game. We can actually. Yeah, we're just gonna.
So Chalique stopped recording because he lost. I wish y'all would have seen it. I just put him in checkmate. I won. So yeah, congratulate me on LinkedIn. I'm gonna make this very known to everybody that I beat Chalique live on the A2B Series podcast.
I'll let you win again.
He'll probably, but I'll win next time. Anyway, until next time, I think this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it being one-on-one again. Not sure when we'll have a guest on again, just to be honest. Chalique and I need to.
I kind of like the one-on-one time.
The one-on-one time again, yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Of course, bro.
But we'll catch y'all in the next episode.